Tell me the story about hearing your uncle actually calling out your name.
I was sitting in camp with my captors, and it was just a day or two after I had been kidnapped. And I remember just hearing a voice. And at the time, and even to this day, I'm not 100% sure it was my uncle, but it did sound like his voice to me. And I remember just hearing my name being yelled. And I remember just wanting to scream out back, saying, "Here I am, come get me, here I am." And my captor, Brian Mitchell, looked at me and he said, "If anyone walks into this camp, I will kill them." And he said, "If you scream out, I will kill you." And he pulled out the knife that he had used to kidnap me with. It was a hunting knife. It was long, it was black. On one side it was serrated, on the other side it was smooth. And I believed him. I believed that he would have killed anyone that found the camp. I believed he would have killed me had I yelled out. So it was probably one of the hardest points, hearing kind of that voice fade away and not yelling out my name anymore, feeling like they'd given up searching in that canyon.
Did you ever think you'd never be free again?
Oh, I had plenty of those moments, yeah. But then I'd also think, okay, well, I'm 14. They're in their 50s. They will die before I do. I mean, if nothing dramatic doesn't happen other than what's already happened. So, reason stands that I should outlive them. So if I just keep on surviving, I'll be free one day.
At 14, you thought that?
Yeah. I'm certainly extremely grateful that I did not have to wait to outlive them.
How were you held?
Well, initially I was held by physical metal cables bolted around my ankle so that I couldn't run away. And during the time that I was physically chained up, I was continually told over and over again what would happen if I ran away, what would happen to my family if I ran away. And eventually, those manipulations, those not physical chains, became stronger than the actual physical chains.
Was it a struggle to reconnect with your family?
No. When I came home, I felt like everything that had been taken away from me had been given back. And I just knew that I didn't want to miss out on a second of it. I didn't want to miss out on a single homework assignment. I probably changed my mind once the homework started coming, but initially when I got home, that was kind of my mindset. I didn't want to miss out on high school. I didn't want to miss out on my family. I didn't want to miss out on my driver's license. I didn't want to miss out on anything.
This was as hard for them as it was for you.
For my family. Oh, I think absolutely, yes. My mom, I've spoken to her many times since then, and she's told me how hard it was for her to get up in the mornings, how the only way she could get out of bed was when my youngest brother, who was only about 3 or 4 at the time, would come in and say he was hungry and he needed something to eat, and he couldn't, pour the cereal for himself or make his toast or something. So that was the only thing that would get my mom out of bed in the morning. So yes, I know it was as hard for my family as it was for me.
How did they cope for those 9 months?
I don't know. I think they had to turn to each other for support. I know my extended family on both sides, they were huge supports. I know my neighborhood was incredible. Well, really the whole nation seemed to come together for my family. And yes, there were still kids at school that would say to my brothers, "Oh, your dad really kidnapped Elizabeth." My brothers, the one that's just older than me and the one that's just younger than me, they were taken in by the police and questioned when I was first kidnapped. And I read a comment from my brother saying that, talking to my dad, that he felt like the police thought that maybe he had done something. And he's like, "Why would I do something? Why would they think that I did something to Elizabeth?" So I know there were many parts that were so hard. Being investigated, being looked at like one of my family members could have possibly done something to me. But at the same time, I know that they certainly felt an outpouring of love, of support, of prayers, not just from the community, but really from the nation. And I think that's been continually reconfirmed over and over every time that I go out and speak, or my dad goes out and speak, where I'm always told how many prayers were said on my behalf, on my family's behalf, and I will never cease to be grateful for that.
Were you ever interested in victims' rights before this happened to you? Was it even on your radar as a 14-year-old girl?
No. I really had no idea about any of it.
The fact that it took some 8 years to bring the abductors to justice, what does that say about our legal system?
It says that we've got some work to do. We've got some improvement that needs being done. Definitely.
What do you think about victim notification? Wanda Barzee came back to Utah, and your family was notified.
Well, not that any of us had received. We had since moved. We'd relocated. I'd gotten married. I'd moved on. So, no, I didn't receive a notice. My dad didn't receive a notice. It wasn't until he read it in the newspaper or was called up for a comment on it, and then he called me and said, "Elizabeth, did you know?" And I was like, "No, I had no idea." But I think it was just probably slipping through the cracks. Not a change of address was ever made to the case file. So I think they probably did send out a notification, but we never got it because we've all moved.
How does it make you feel that she's back in Utah?
I mean, Utah is my home. It's, for me, right now, the place that I love most in the world. Yes, some very terrible things did happen to me here, but also some very wonderful things have happened. And so to know that she's back in the state, I can only hope that when she comes up for parole, that they will send her back to prison.